Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to rapidly expand your English vocabulary by mastering the 12 absolutely essential words of Lesson 35. If you really want to communicate with precision, you need the right tools, right? Well, today, we're adding some incredibly versatile tools straight into your linguistic toolkit. Let's get to it. Okay, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with a quick welcome to Lesson 35, then tackle concepts of clarity and action, followed by wealth, resources, and outcomes. After that, we'll look at time, media, and states, before spotting all these words in our summer travel story. Finally, we'll wrap things up with a quick visual challenge. Easy, right? All right, Section 1, welcome to Lesson 35 and our 12 absolutely essential words. We're going to dig into the exact definitions and contexts of these words. But first, let's just get a quick bird's eye view of our task today. So here they are, the 12 words for Lesson 35. Just take a quick second to scan them over. You might actually recognize a few of these already, while others might be totally new to you. But don't worry, by the end of this explainer, you're going to understand the nuances of every single one. Let's jump right into our first group. Section 2, concepts of clarity and action, specifically words dealing with movement and ambiguity. This first cluster is all about actions and how clearly we perceive things, starting with a word you might use when you, or maybe someone else, is being intentionally or maybe unintentionally unsure. Our very first word is vague, which literally means not definite, not clear, or not distinct. What's super interesting about this word is just how widely it applies. Like, you can have a vague idea of how a car engine works. You could spot a vague shape off in the distance through some fog. Or you can have a vague attitude when you just don't want to commit to a straight answer. Let's see this in action. Quote, Joe's position was vague because he wanted to remain neutral in the dispute. This perfectly illustrates how someone might intentionally give a vague response, avoiding any clear commitments, just to keep the peace and avoid upsetting anyone involved in an argument. Moving on from the realm of ambiguity to some really powerful action, let's look at the word soar. This means to fly upward, fly at a great height, or even to aspire. Just think about the pure, raw energy of something breaking totally free from gravity and flying high. Listen to how this sounds in context. We watched the soaring eagle skim over the mountain peak. Notice how using the word soaring here instantly paints this incredibly vivid, dynamic picture in your head. It's not just flying, right? It's gliding effortlessly at this amazing, majestic height. Moving right along to Section 3, wealth, resources, and outcomes. Basically words about getting and managing things. Let's see how our previous words build into this next theme, where we explore concepts connected to acquiring things and actually achieving our goals. Next up on the list is finance. Now, this word definitely wears two hats. As a noun, finance refers to money matters, like handling your personal finances or working in a finance department. But as a verb, it means to actively provide the actual funds for something. For instance, a student figuring out how to finance a summer trip to Europe. Which naturally brings us to obtain. This simply means to get, or in some contexts, to be in use. The real crucial point here is that to obtain something almost always implies a level of deliberate effort. It's not passive, you don't just receive it. You obtain a diploma through hard work, or you obtain accurate info by actually doing your research. Actually, think of the relationship between these two words like this. They very often work hand in hand. You might need to figure out a way to finance your education in order to successfully obtain your degree. So one is the resource engine, and the other is the successful acquisition. Makes sense, right? All right, Section 4, time, media, and states. We're talking connections, stillness, and what comes next. Let's push forward into this final group of words, which deals heavily with states of being, physical positioning, and the actual sequence of how things unfold. Here we have stationary, meaning having a fixed station or place, standing still or not moving. Now, I want you to pay very close attention to the spelling here. Notice it's spelled with an A near the end. That means not moving. That is completely different from the stationary spelled with an E, which refers to the paper and envelopes you write letters on. Check out this sentence. It perfectly captures the physical reality of the word caught. In the middle of traffic, the frightened pedestrian remained stationary in the busy street. It totally gives you that exact feeling of being completely frozen, stationary, while this chaotic, moving environment is just swirling all around you. And then we have subsequent, meaning later, following, or coming after. This is just a fantastic word to establish a timeline.
As an example, you are dedicating time to learning these vocabulary words right now, and you will absolutely see the positive results in your subsequent English conversations.
Okay, section 5, the summer travel story. This is where we spot the words in the wild. Now that we've broken down all these definitions, we are going to synthesize everything by hunting for all 12 of these Lesson 35 words within the context of a short reading passage. So let's take a look at the summer travel story from our source material. Just read along silently as I described a scenario here. It's about a student who is totally tired of making vague excuses for a dull summer. To elevate their spirits, they realize they don't actually need to win a lottery to finance a trip to Europe. By using a student ID, they obtain discount tickets to cinemas and musical events. Soon enough, they're soaring into the skies, telling us not to discard our hopes of travel so we can subsequently relate our adventures to our stationary friends back home.
By grouping these words into logical phrases straight from the story, like vague excuses, elevate your spirits, or stationary friends, you actually transition your brain from just rote memorization to active comprehension. You aren't just learning isolated words anymore, you're learning how they naturally lock together in everyday sentences.
Which brings us to section 6, the final visual challenge. Time to put your knowledge to the test. You've done an awesome job absorbing all the nuances of Lesson 35 today, so let's cap off this explainer with a quick test to really lock in what we've learned. I'm about to show you an illustration directly from the sourcebook. I want you to look closely at the context of the drawing and the action taking place, and let's see if you can identify exactly which of our 12 vocabulary words is being depicted. Ready? Here we go. So we see a young boy here, and he's blindfolded. He's reaching his hand into this massive glass bowl that is just completely full of little paper tickets. He obviously can't see what he's grabbing. He is relying entirely on chance to pull a winner. So, which word from our listen does this represent? If you guessed lottery, you are absolutely right. This image perfectly illustrates a lottery, a scheme for distributing prizes by lot or by pure chance. That blindfold basically guarantees the outcome is completely random, exactly like the draw of a real lottery ticket.
And wow, that brings us to the end of our vocabulary journey for today. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final question. How will you use one of these newly acquired words in your own subsequent conversations? Seriously, don't let your learning remain stationary. Challenge yourself to confidently relate a story using at least one of these words today. Because honestly, the only way to truly elevate your vocabulary is to put it to the test. Thanks so much for focusing in with us, and keep soaring.